away.
All right. Good morning, everybody. It is now 12:01. So let's go ahead and call the MAG Active Transportation meeting to order for December 15th. As a reminder, please mute your mics when not speaking to eliminate any feedback noise. Because this is a virtual meeting, a roll call vote will be taken for each action item on the agenda. An opportunity for the public comment on the agenda was provided ahead of the meeting. Staff did not receive any comments for this month. We will now begin the meeting with roll call for all the members. So Jason, please take it away.
Thank you. Okay, Hezekiah Allen. Hezekiah. Grant couldn't make it today. Bob Bean.
Here.
Molly Benton.
Here.
Thank you. I believe Tara instead of Jason today from Pinell County.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Stacy Carefree. Marielle Brown. Nathan Chadwick or Omar Peters.
Hey, good afternoon. This is Omar Peters.
Okay, thank you so much. Gotta change that. Stephen Chang. Stephen, I saw your name, so I'm gonna put you there. Susan Conclu.
I'm here.
Thank you. Jason Crampton.
Here.
Stephen Esther. Tiffany Halperin. And we spoke with Jason Harris. Jeff King.
Yep, I'm here.
Thank you. Larry Kirch.
I'm here.
Thank you. Ashley.
Here.
Thank you. Donna Lewandowski. Jose. Jessica May.
Here.
Christine McMurdy.
Here.
Randy Proch.
Hello.
Thank you. Woodrow Scouten. Ward Stanford. Ward. Garrett Topham. Nathan Williams. Nathan. Robert Weisner.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Ryan Wozniak.
Here.
Thank you. Robert Yavis.
Here.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you, Jason. All right, moving on to item number 2, approval of the minutes. This is an action item. Approval of the September 15th, 2020 Active Transportation Committee minutes. Do I have any questions or any comments? All right, here none. Do I have a motion?
This is Christine. So moved.
Thank you, Christine. Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Susan.
Thank you, Susan. All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Are we doing a roll call vote, Jason?
Yeah. Let me just go through the roll call.
Sorry about that.
All good. Okay. Let's see here. Bob Bean, yay or nay? Bob, yes or no?
Yay, sorry, I was muted.
Okay. Molly, yes or no?
Yes.
Tara, yes or no?
Yes.
Marielle, yes or no? I know she's on there, so I'm going to assume that's a yes. Omar Peters, yes or no?
Yes.
Stephen Chang, yes or no? Stephen. Jason Crampton, yes or no?
Aye.
Thank you. Stephen Esther, yes or no? Ann Heron Basic, yes or no?
Yes.
King. Larry Kirch, yes or no?
Yes.
Ashley.
Yes.
Okay. Jose,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Robert Weisner,
Yes.
Ryan.
Yes.
Thank you. And Robert Yavis.
Yes.
Thank you.
Jason,
Jason, I'm here. This is Garrett, by the way. I'm here.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. Yes or no on the minutes, Garrett?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey,
Apparently, you have to
Jason,
unmute your phone and your computer.
hey, Jason, did you get Maribel Brown from City of Phoenix?
Mary L. Brown, yes, I have her here.
Okay, good. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you guys for that action. All right, let's move on to item number 3, call to the audience. Jason, do we have anybody?
No, sir.
Okay, this is going quick. All right, let's get down to the meat of the agenda. Let's get to item number 4. Michael Martin from Texas A&M Transportation Institute updated on the review of the MAG bicycle count locations. All right, Michael, go ahead and take it away, please.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me? Jason, can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I'm sharing a screen here, and just to confirm, everyone can see that too. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, so my name is Michael Martin. I work at the Texas A&M Transportation Institute here in Bryan College Station, Texas. Sean Turner is my colleague. He and I presented about, I think it was in September, so a couple of months ago on this work. This is an update of us reviewing the bicycle count locations around the MAG area. This work was done as part of an FHWA project out of the Office of Safety. That project was Pedestrian Bicycle Scalable Risk Assessment Methodology, where we looked at or developed methods, scalable methods for folks around the country to calculate or determine exposure so that they could actually understand risk. And that project put us here today because we had an outreach and an assistant component of it, where we reached out to MAG and worked with Wong and his group and Jason to evaluate your count locations. So we went through a process of pulling data from Wong's group. A lot of that information came from their travel demand modeling data sets. Here's a list of the variables or the attributes that we looked at across the area. Those include household income, population, employment densities, area types, functional class, or the functional type of roadways, annual average daily traffic, how far are these count locations from bus stops and bus routes, bicycle paths, and also the percentage or the count of locations within about a hundredth of a mile from the count location to a bike path. So the way that we determined whether or not the count locations as a whole were representative of the MAG region is we looked at distributions and compared those. So basically down here, for instance, here's a household income distribution. I have my screen quite zoomed in, so everything's a little bit larger for you all. But for example, in terms of household income, we have pretty good representation. You can see in the 0 to 50 income range, there's a little bit of overrepresentation by the count locations, and the count locations are the lighter green. For the MAG region, it's represented in the darker green here. And so wherever these don't perfectly or relatively align, we can see an under or overrepresentation. And so here in the first set of range, or the first range, we see overrepresentation in the count locations, and we're recommending, if it's possible, to maybe take some of those count locations and spread them out to other income ranges. For instance, between 50 and 200, we can see an underrepresentation relative to the MAG region. So this is what you're looking at, the product of our work here, it's an HTML file. We can share it with everybody and you can go through and explore. It's interactive. You can start to see, the numbers behind these distributions. There's quite a few. Each one of these attributes has its own distribution, and I can walk through those. But I'm going to just summarize our findings, and that is overall the count locations were they had good representativeness to the MAG region. Everything was pretty well balanced between areas where bicyclists are expected, so higher densities and lower volume roadways, and close to transit and bicycle infrastructure, and areas where bicycling is less prevalent. So everything kind of made sense, which is really good. That's what you want to find in an exercise like this. So as always, there's some possible areas of improvement. Just for, in this case, we recommended that some of the count locations, like I just showed you with the household income, be redistributed if that's amenable to everyone in the MAG region. And the next area would be redistributing a portion of the count locations from area type 1 and 5. Forgive me, I don't have the actual explanation of the codes in this just yet. When we met with Wong and them, that was something we're going to follow up with. But basically, area type 1 is the central region, the CBD, if you will. And there's a higher concentration of count locations in that area as opposed to area 5, which is on the periphery of the developed areas. Next item would be adding more functional classes or functional types so that local streets are included in the modeling network, so that this analysis could better evaluate the representativeness of the functional classes that the count locations may be present or located on. And the last thing was redistributing a portion of the count locations from medium volume roadways to lower volume roadways. And so I wanted to keep this presentation short. There's a lot we can dig into and fall into the weeds, and we're happy to do that. That's what I do on a daily basis, but doesn't make for the best presentation. So if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer or address those now.
Thank you, Michael. Anybody, the committee has any questions for Mike?
I have a question.
Sure.
Go ahead.
On some of your recommended distribution, how did you normalize? What is the major factor in normalizing it into those proposed categories?
Okay, so one of the areas that we had to normalize is population density. So here we're going to be looking at the population in terms of the area. And what we found when we were just looking at the percentage distributions is, there's some underrepresentation and overrepresentation. So not each variable can be normalized, but where we need it to, such as population or employment density, we did look at it in terms of, area in those cases. Did that help answer the question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. And in this document, just kind of put some static graphics here to where you can see the area types. And once I get those actual descriptions, I can update this and we can resend it to everybody so that it makes a little bit more sense than just codes here.
And this is Sean. I work with Michael at TTI, and so I wanted to give you the important takeaway is that so y'all have sort of reached out within the member agencies, and MAG has asked for these locations, and y'all have picked sort of from your local experience what we think is a pretty good representation. Why we did this was because you may not be able to do this on a regular basis next year, the year after. And what other areas have done is they've developed a model to estimate. And if you develop a model to estimate, the model is only as good and is only as representative as the data that you collect. And so that's really, I think that was the real genesis of this, was to see, okay, if you're gonna use this count data to develop a model and to develop estimates for places where you didn't count, let's make sure that you have representative sites.
Hi, this is Omar Peters from Valley Metro, the transit agency. Can you jump back to number 9? And as you're scrolling back up, so it says bus stops. Does that include just bus stops or transit stops in general? So rail stations are included.
This should only be bus stops. That's what the layer I was working from there. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, bus routes and bus stops. Yep. Yeah, and this included the 497 count locations across the region. So.
Hey, Michael, quick question for you. Jose Nomraj. Did you guys look into employment centers? About to travel from, because here in Elmrod, we don't really have a lot of employment centers, so people have to travel outside the city. Is there a factor in there for that?
I think what you may be asking is, did we look at the distance between count locations and these employment centers? Is that right?
Employment, yes.
Yeah, we did not. We did not do that.
So
that is something you could do. We just did not do that in this exercise.
But Michael, there's number 5, employment density.
Employment density, yes.
That capture.
Right, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
So, and this is going to be, I'd have to look again at the zone. I think this was either the TAS level or the MAZ, which I think was even smaller. But I'd have to look. But yes, we did this on a zone basis, looking at employment. Yeah.
All right, that was my next question. Do you guys take account of zoning, residential, commercial, employment, that stuff? So, okay, that's my question.
And so the other thing to note too is I think I've always, so we've been talking about in this FHWA project about developing models, and we've been giving guidance about how do you make sure that you get representative sites. And so this is, I think, a process that we used a lot of the MAG data layers. And I think that if y'all were interested enough in refining and making sure that you're covering bases, you could add the layers of interest. You could add the transit stops. You could add these other factors to make sure that you're getting good representation. The other point to make is that sometimes cyclists and pedestrians just aren't in some areas, and we don't collect there for a reason, because we don't want to put counters out and count one person a day or count 0 persons for the week. But on the other side of it, you have to be able to capture that in your models, because you want to be able to accurately estimate where there's a very low likelihood that people are going to walk or bike.
That's a very good point, Sean. And that's what we were getting at when we said possibly redistribute some of the count locations that are in the CBD, the dark brown areas here, kind of the higher density, to the green areas out here, even though it seems counterintuitive for the same reasons you just said, but you still have to capture.
I mean, we did the same thing within Texas using Strava data, because Strava is a sample and we had a statewide license for Strava. So we went out and we counted cyclists at maybe 20, 30, 40 different locations, and we developed a model. But what we found was that our model was basically giving us an over-optimistic view, because we only collected data where we knew that we were going to have a fair number of cyclists. We didn't include any sites where there just wasn't anybody there. In part because we didn't want to put out equipment, but in retrospect, we needed to account for that somehow in our model development.
This is Jason. I think, kudos to the member agencies. When we decided, when the modeling group decided to move forward with this, we went to the member agencies and we asked for their top locations, and it looks like they did a pretty outstanding job with that. And so this preliminary kind of information and whether or not we move forward to continue counting, that's to be seen what that looks like. But I'm happy to know that our member agencies came through like that. It looks like they did a really good job.
Hey, this is Marielle. I'm sorry, I've been having some connection issues. I'm really glad that we're doing this, but at the same time, I'm a little bit hesitant about redistributing count locations to places where we don't expect to see anyone or to count anyone.
Yeah, Marielle, this is Jason. We're not there. We're starting with what was given to us. I think these are just, some suggestions from TTI moving forward, possibly after analyzing data. That's not going to happen anytime soon. We're moving forward with what was given to us first, and then we'll kind of, take a step back after that and see what we're going to do moving forward.
This is Christine. I have a question for Sean and Michael. Just in general, for any of the other locations that you've done these counts, obviously with this being a COVID year, can you kind of give us some sense of what you've seen in any situations where you counted this year and maybe counted last year? And I'm primarily interested mostly on the West Coast.
It's clear that biking and walking activity is up. I think the degree of how much it is up varies. I know we've looked at it specifically in Texas, and we can share a presentation. We've been working with TxDOT on a statewide count database, and they were seeing biking was up maybe 30 to 40% in March and April, and then it kind of came back down, but it was still up summertime year over year by at least 20 to 25%. Streetlight and Strava, I think both, and Wong just put something in the chat. I think Streetlight and Strava have both put out some citywide numbers as well. You might be able to pull some West Coast peer cities.
Okay, and I'm also curious whether you would consider adding climate or something along the lines of heat, because we've just wrapped up the hottest year on record for the, I'll just say Maricopa County, because we're just dealing with MAG right now, but have you considered adding anything like climate to the characteristics to see if that impacts pedestrian and bicycle activity?
Yeah, so if we were to want to predict activity on a particular day, then I would say absolutely, you've got to have weather or climate or something in there. What we were looking at is really developing a model that gives you annual average characteristics, more or less an AADT for bicyclists or pedestrians.
Okay, all right, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Hi, this is Wang Zhang. I work for the data program at MAG. I just want to add on the comments regarding this question. So we're going to do 500, pedestrian bike counts, hopefully, within next 12 or 18 months. And for every count location, we would require the contractor to record the weather conditions, temperature or windy, snow, rain, whatever happens to that site as much as possible. So we will have weather conditions to be referenced to. And second of all, I just put a link on the chat box that basically shows, based on the Strava data in our region, how the pedestrian and bike activities look like in 2020 as compared to 2019. As you can see, it also shows the seasonal variations. Obviously, when the temperature was high, in summertime, those non-motorized activities dropped to the bottom, and in the spring and fall, those are typically two peaks that we observe from Strava data in terms of the pedestrian bike traveling.
Wang, thank you so much. That's really good. I appreciate the link.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any more questions from the committee members?
I just want to say likewise, I appreciate the link. And with regards to the conversation with how COVID-19 and the pandemic has changed the counts, while I want to acknowledge that, yes, they are up, is there also not the opportunities to think about the destinations that folks are riding their bikes to? For instance, a lot of the parks or community centers or the libraries and things of that nature that were closed during this year. How do we account for that?
Yeah, was that a question? I'm sorry.
I was just wondering if there's any sort of ways to adjust for that, or if that's going to possibly be something to factor in as to how this data is used.
Got it.
When is the MAG planning to do this data collection? Have y'all started yet this fall? Or is that next spring?
Yeah, again, this is Wang Zhang from MAG. I can briefly talk about that. So we have started. We have started back in November. We started a small task order with a consultant connecting just below 80 number of locations of pedestrian and bike counts. We're still reserving the most of the efforts, hopefully in the 2021, because our concern is to not to connect the data when everything is changing. Hopefully we will reach a new normal, or hopefully the data, the majority of data we're going to connect in 2021 would be used for us to describe the new normal conditions. So we have started, but we have reserved the majority of the work to be done in 2021, starting right after the new year.
Thank you.
Okay, so if anybody has any further questions or needs a little more clarification on something, I believe Michael said he'd be more than happy to talk to you. So just let me or Wang know. Send an email to me, and I'll pass that on to Wang, who's the project manager for this count project. So yeah, just go ahead and do that, and I'll pass that on, and we can get you some more information.
All right, thank you, Jason. And also thank you, Michael and Sean, for the presentation. Very helpful. And we hope to hear from you guys again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. All right, moving on to item number, I think we're number 4. No, wait, nope. Item number 5. Active People, Healthy Nation Proclamation. Jason, this is yours.
Yes. So about a year ago, the CDC, about a year ago, I started communicating with the project lead at the time of the Active People, Healthy Nation effort from the CDC. I had contacted them and asked them if there was any possible endorsements that they would do for active transportation plans. And they said that would have to go through a lot of bureaucracy to be able to get that. So wasn't able to do that. And the second thing I asked was if they were going to be doing any kind of proclamation that MPO or regional council or governments could formally support for this effort. And so moving forward, kind of kept in touch with them, and then they came out with a kind of more extensive proclamation than this. It was customizable, and so we whittled it down to this. They had several different strategies. We chose the activity-friendly routes to everyday destination strategy to support via the MAG Active Transportation Plan. This effort does have champions around the country. Most of them are east of the Mississippi, a very small town, more small town type elected officials, nobody really in California or the West Coast to speak of. And no full councils. So should MAG actually go through the policy committee process and this gets supported, formally supported, we'd be the first MPO in the country to formally support this effort, and there would be some the CDC would do some PR around that. I've been told. So anyway, so that's what this is. Active People Healthy Nation effort is to get 20, I think it's 27 million people, and by 2027 active. As we know, obesity-related illness is the number one cause of death in America. Obesity is the number one comorbidity for COVID. So I think this really comes at an appropriate time, and it's an opportunity for the members and MAG and the regional council eventually, hopefully, to support an effort of getting people out and to the everyday destinations. So that's basically what this is, Mr. Chairman. And I believe Molly Benton from the Maricopa County Department of Public Health wanted to say something before we get going on this.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have a comment. This is Molly Benton with Maricopa County Department of Public Health. So we at Public Health strive to make healthy lives possible with a vision of creating healthy, safe, and thriving communities. One of 7 strategic initiatives we focus on through the year 2023 is increasing opportunities and places to be physically active. As the CDC reports, many Americans do not have safe or convenient places to be active, with less than half of the US population living within 1/2 mile of a park and only 1 in 4 adults meeting physical activity guidelines. So with that being said, we believe the collaboration between citizens, planners, and city leaders to prioritize and plan activity-friendly routes to everyday destinations will improve residents' health outcomes by increasing physical activity opportunities. And we see this health and all planning approach as a long-term investment in the health of Maricopa County residents, and support this in addition to the MAG active transportation plan. So I'd be happy to make the motion to recommend approval when we're ready.
Thank you, Molly, and thank you, Jason. Again, this is an action item, but before we get there, is there any questions from the committee members? Okay, hearing none. So do I have a motion for recommended approval of the Active People Healthy Nation SM proclamation?
Mr. Chairman.
Oh,
Sorry.
This is Susan. I'll make a motion or second.
How about we take the motion from Molly and a second from Susan?
Okay, thanks.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Oh, I'm sorry. I have it. Jason, you do a roll call?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, Bob Bean.
Absolutely, yes.
Thank you. Molly, you first. Tara.
Yes.
Marielle. I know Marielle's saying yes somewhere. We just can't hear.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Omar.
Yes.
Thank you. Stephen Chang. I'm sure he's saying yes somewhere. Susan Conclu.
Yes.
Jason Crampton.
Yes.
Ann Aaron Basic.
Yes.
Larry Kirch.
Yes.
Ashley.
Yes.
Jose.
Yes.
Jessica May.
Yes.
Christine.
Yes.
Randy.
Yes.
Garrett.
Yes.
Robert Weisner.
Yes.
Ryan Wozniak.
Well done, Molly. Yes.
Thank you. Robert Yavis.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're good.
All right, thank you, Jason, and thank you, members of the committee, for that vote. All right, let's move on to item number 6, which is the updates to the MAG bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure and design assistance application and scoring process. Let's see, this is just for information and discussion. I believe this is Jason, this is yours again.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, super exciting. It's the end of an era, maybe the beginning of an era. As everybody maybe is aware, maybe not, a little history lesson. You know, Prop 400 was passed 2004. We're coming up on the end of that half-cent sales tax extension in 2025. Last year, August of 2019, we did a call for construction in 23-24. In tentatively August of 21, we'll be doing a call for construction for just 1 year, 2025, the final year of the 20-year half-cent extension. And we will have design assistance for 4 more years, FY 22, 23, 24, and then 25. Moving forward, you know, we don't know, you know, we don't know what's going to happen in 2022 if we go to the voters with a new effort, whether or not that passes. So, you know, we don't know what's going to happen should a active transportation program be funded or not. So right now we are looking at 25 construction last year, going in August of 21 for that. And then, like I said, we have 4 more years of design assistance. Over the last 20 years, the cities and towns have done a great job in building out a bike network of local projects, hundreds of millions of dollars. MAGs invested in the region and the cities have invested to create, you know, a pretty good network of bike ped facilities. So what we're doing is we're going to do a little bit of a update to the application process. We want to do a little update to the application process for this last year of construction. Moving into, should a program be funded, should an active transportation program be funded in the next iteration of Prop 400, whatever that is, we would probably crack this open and dig into it and create a more efficient and better application process, kind of like what we did with design assistance a few years ago. For those that don't know, the web portal that everybody used the last couple of years didn't really exist before that. So we kind of created that and made it a lot easier for people. So we're gonna do that same thing with the infrastructure process, but we wanted to kind of start this this last year and kind of look at prioritizing some of the ATP stuff and get some more clarification on some data. So you can go to the next slide, please. So for the bike ped infrastructure application process, we sent out a data survey. We wanted to better clarify some of the qualitative data. You know, a lot of times when we make the presentations, a lot of people are basically giving a presentation. If anybody hasn't done that already, when we do bike ped infrastructure project applications, we do 2 days of presentations. And many times people are providing information on the qualitative data when they're making those presentations. So we thought if we could better clarify that data, we could kind of streamline that process a little bit, especially in this day and age. And it looks like, I don't know when we're going to be coming back to the office to do this. So we wanted to clarify some of that data, maybe make it easier for people to decide, you know, if something's a 1 to 10, what is a 1, what is a 10, what makes it, you know, why would you give it a high mark? Why would you give it a medium mark? Why would you give it a low mark? So we did that through that survey that we sent out. I think there was only a few of you that actually kind of like participated all the way through in the survey, but we'll go through a couple of things on that. And then we also wanted to prioritize the implementation of the ATP. You know, everybody worked really hard on that. The committee, other stakeholders came up with a kind of more of a systems-based approach to active transportation in the region. And so MAG's recommendation is to really kind of like prioritize those corridors and routes or routes, while not excluding, you know, somebody could apply for something else too, but we're not excluding other projects that could be applied for, but we're trying to prioritize the ATP. And then with design assistance application process, a couple of, you know, again, prioritizing the implementation of the ATP through a couple of things. So we'll kind of go through a couple of things. If anybody has any questions, they can ask, and we can kind of just talk through this. We would come back in January with approval for all this stuff, but we'll just kind of walk through this a little bit and we can talk it out. So next slide, please. So for the bike ped infrastructure application process, we did this qualitative data survey. You can go ahead and jump to that survey, David. Please, thank you. So essentially what we were asking people was for the qualitative questions, we were asking them if 1 to 10 was an appropriate score for these questions, and then what would make people consider a high score, a medium score, and a low score. So as you can see with question 1, I won't go through all of the questions, but we'll just kind of do a couple and you can get the idea. And if you have any questions, you know, you can stop me and we can talk. But question 1, scale of 1 to 10, improved access from residences to destinations appropriate. Most people said it was yes. Most people meaning 6, because I think only 7 people took this survey. But and then we'd ask them to explain what would be a more appropriate scale. So some people, as you can see, if you scroll down there, somebody answered, I think 1 to 5 might be more appropriate. So if most of the people that answered this, if they thought 1 to 10 was appropriate, we'll just leave it. And then you can go to the next slide. What reasons would prompt you to give a low score for this criterion? Here's where what we'll do is we'll take some of these answers that we received, and we will, you know, probably create a cell in the application worksheet under or below each of these questions that you can click on that'll show you this. So it'll kind of more standardized responses, because we've had some people ask, well, I don't understand maybe why my application got scored low. This is going to help people understand a little better what is a 1 and what is a 10. So that's what really we're trying to get at. We're trying to really zero in on this so that it standardizes a little bit better and helps the members understand what they could do or what they didn't do, or what other members are looking at when they are scoring the applications. So what reasons would prompt you to give a low score for this criterion? And everybody can read that. I don't need to read it for you, but these are kind of the responses that we're kind of looking for from people. And we'll collate these and come back in the January meeting with some changes, and we can look for approval for this item then. And you can go to the next one, please. Keep going. And then the high score. So again, answers, people explaining why they would give this a high score, medium score, low score. So next question. So again, this would be question 2, improve connectivity and access from residences to K-8 schools. Most people said it was a proper score. So I won't walk through all of these, but if you go to question page 13, I think, David, this is one of them that I thought maybe we could change. Project includes effective education and marketing. I think most of the people that took the survey said, you know, a couple of different things. It could be yes or no. It could be 1 to 3. So maybe this is the one, maybe this is one we could change a score on. The rest of them were the rest of the people that responded to this pretty much said yes for most of the scores, but this is the one that kind of came out that was different. So I think we'll just kind of stop there. For the people that took the survey, they can make some comments. For the people that didn't take the survey, you still have some time to provide me some comments. But I just want to stop there and kind of talk through this a little bit if anybody has any questions.
Thank you, Jason, for that presentation. All right, do we have any comments or questions from the committee members?
Hey everybody, this is Christine. I was pleased that I had the opportunity to go through this, but I lack a lot of technical expertise in the areas of some of these questions. So I'm going to be, I assume Jason is going to wait from there. I'll be able to look through all of these and see what everybody else said, since we're not going to go through them slide by slide. But I think that's something that may have caused a low response rate. So I don't know, I apologize if you said it, but if there's a way that we could talk through some of these or even get, well, I guess I'll want to read through all of them. I just think it would benefit a lot of people that, like me, don't have an abundance of technical knowledge about, you know, the size of a sidewalk or whether a bike lane should be protected or not. I've read the active transportation plan, but it's obviously a document I'm going to need to read a couple times over to get more knowledgeable about it. And I think that might have impacted maybe some of the lack of responses. But I really appreciate the opportunity to do this, because sometimes when you do go through the applications from other cities and you're trying to score, you can get hung up on the 3 or 4, 7 or 8, 5 or 6. But I found when I was going through these and trying to answer those exact quandaries, it was just very difficult still to come up with the rationalization or the justification for 5 or 6, 3 or 4. It's an awful experience when you go and you get your eye exam and they say, is this one better or worse, A or B, C or D? It really, you wind up really getting into a funnel of what's the difference between one number and the very next number. So it was tough, but I appreciated the opportunity to go through it. And I hope we can at some point maybe have a discussion about maybe some of these that might have gotten a little close or we're not sure what to do, because this is such a great program. I would hate to see us lose it, whether that's through federal activity or Prop 400 extension. This was a very interesting exercise, and it did force me to think a lot about how challenging this is when you are reviewing the applications.
Yeah, and that was our intent. We're really trying to help exactly what you were going through. You know, we're trying to help that situation so that you're not sitting there going, oh my gosh, you know, what's high, what's low, what's medium. So yeah, so we're really trying to do that, and I'll send this PDF out to everybody, you know, with kind of a deadline of asking for comments back. And, you know, if we get some comments back, we can, you know, take those into consideration, you know, looking to try to come to some type of conclusion for the January meeting. But I'll send this out right after the meeting, this PDF, and people can kind of read through it, and if they have any more comments or suggestions or whatever, they can let us know.
Hey, Jason.
Hey, Jason.
Where, if you could refresh my memory, where is the link to the survey?
Yeah, I sent it out to everybody a couple of weeks ago, so you should have received it. You're on the Active Transportation Committee.
Okay, yeah. I'll make sure I fill it out. Thanks.
Okay. Can you have them reopen the link, Jason? Because right now it just tells you that it's closed.
Yeah, I know, because there was a deadline, everybody.
I know, and I just saw it. I just didn't know if they can redo it.
Yeah, what I'll do, how about if I open it for another week? I'll see if we can open it for another week.
Thank you.
And then I'll give everybody one more week.
And that's it.
That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so,
thanks.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason, on the back end, are you able to look at which which questions tend to have like wildly divergent scores and which ones tend to have similar scores? Like I'm wondering about the inter-rater reliability. That might also be a clue as to which questions might need a different scale or more explicit instructions.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I think moving forward, the scale could be better. I agree with you. There's a lot of these where the scale could be better. I don't know if we were looking to make wholesale changes this time around. We were looking for some kind of, lack of a better word, low-hanging fruit that we could do for this last year to kind of try to get a little more clarification and then worry about a next iteration of this program should it be funded through an extension. So we're kind of looking for a little guidance for this last year, spruce it up a little bit, and then come back, for the full makeover in the next iteration.
Okay, and looking, as we were talking about kind of reconsidering the funding and the way that we assign funding in this project or in this program, are the other funding programs that MAG does, like the arterial program, are they also being reconsidered?
That's out of my realm of above my pay grade. I wouldn't want to speak to that at all. As far as you're talking about through an extension of Prop 400.
Well, yeah, but also the way that MAG suballocates federal funding to its different programs, which it totally can, it removes some of the flexibility that's inherent in the STP funds. And so I'm just wondering if that will also be revisited, because some of those STP funds at the federal level are designated as very flexible, which means they can be used for bike ped. But then the way that MAG structures its own programs, it removes some of that flexibility. Yeah, even though it's not part of the bike ped program, in my mind, it could be.
Yeah, those are policy-related issues. We're not. That's a policy question that has to be taken back. So that won't get solved here.
I totally understand. I'm just wondering, what is the avenue for addressing that or raising questions about that?
Yeah, I mean, those are policy questions. We can take that back and we talk about that in-house, and then we can get back to you on that.
Jason, this is Christina. I would say either through whoever your representative is on the Transportation Policy Committee, or you can even go through your InterGov and they'll take that through MAG. Those would be the best places to ask that question. Not long ago, I had kind of a similar question about the programs and how flexible they were. And I got a sufficient answer, but I would suggest those two routes to get that question answered.
Okay, so let's go ahead and move on.
Jason, real quick, there's a couple of questions or comments on the text there. Have you looked at them? From Ryan?
Yeah, I see Ryan's.
Okay. Make sure you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll open up the survey again, and they can make their comments, and we'll have it for a week, and then we'll come back.
Okay.
All right. So.
All right, and again, this is only for a discussion, right? There's no action on this for today.
No,
right?
we're not done yet. So David, can you bounce back to the presentation there? Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, next slide. All right, so as we said, trying to prioritize the ATP routes. So for this last year, right now, CMAQ assigned weights. You can see those. You can see the TA assigned weights. What we're recommending for MAG is to, so normally we would have a committee score or a presentation score, which we would have people fill out the score sheet, then they would come back, listen to all the presentations, then give us another score sheet, which was a committee rank, which basically ranked the presentations. So we're gonna just go ahead and transition that to an ATP identified route. So we'll wait an ATP if somebody applies for this For 2025, if it's an ATP identified route, that'll be the 15% instead of the presentation. So we're going to kind of prioritize the actual infrastructure versus just the presentation of an application. So that's what we're recommending for the application, in addition to trying to clarify some of the qualitative data. Next slide. So into the design assistance application process, again, next slide. So when you go to the web portal for design assistance and you're doing a design assistance application, you know, you'll see it right here. This is what it looks like. It's a screenshot. It says amount of funding requested. You put that in. Well, they're going to be, the next question is going to be, is this project identified in the MAG active transportation plan? Yes or no? If you click on the active transportation plan, it'll hyperlink you to the next slide. Well, not the next slide, but the next page. It'll hyperlink you to this, which is where thanks, David, which is where all of the tier 1 and tier 2 corridors are listed, and the facility types, and it'll be 67, page 67. So you just go to the document, which is the complete corridor identification and evaluation process. It'll take you to that, and you just type in 67 like it is at the top there, and it'll take you right to that page. And so you'll know, you know, for people that are that need to know that from the cities. So, and then if you go back one, David. So if you hit yes, that'll give you, if you go forward 2 slides, David, you'll get 10 points. So we added a 10 points for a project that is identified in the MAG active transportation plan. So it's about 9% or 10% of the total. 9% of the total, 9 point something. So, so that's how we're going to prioritize the ATP routes for design assistance. Again, not excluding any other projects if people wanted to apply for them. And there might be some cities and towns that are part of the MAG ATP that don't want to apply for ATP projects, and that's their prerogative. But we're really trying to move towards a more kind of system-based approach, and more high quality facilities, which I think everybody is in favor of. I know a lot of people are doing that now in their own communities. So that's for the design assistance program, where we're moving with that. Next slide. So the next steps, we recommend approval of the application process additions for design assistance and infrastructure applications at the January 19th meeting. So we'll open the survey again for a week. We'll get everybody's comments. We'll get some more scores. Then I'll sit down with our performance people. We'll go through this information, and we'll make some additions to the sheets, and we'll send those out with the agenda for the next meeting. Looking for approval for these updates and additions to these processes. Again, for this last year, for 2025, August of 2021, we'll have 1 year, a call for projects for 1 year for infrastructure projects for 2025. And then design assistance, like I said, we have 4 more years, 22, 23, 24, 25. And we want to prioritize the ATP and make things a little easier. And then we'll final approval of the process additions and updates at the February 24th meeting of the Regional Council. That would be going through the policy committee process in February and getting final approval for these application processes. So that's the end of the presentation there. We can talk some more about it, or we can, or I'll send out that link, and people can take the survey. If they have any more questions, they can get back to me, you know, during the week.
Mr. Chairman and Jason, this is Bob Bean. I've got a question.
Hey, Bob.
Being a bicycling advocate and not someone representing any of the individual communities, my focus is on safety, of course, and connectivity in our region. And I've been trying for a long time to understand the relationship between design assistance in our active transportation plan and a lot of the expensive infrastructure things that I've heard about in the spine study. Because one of our biggest issues is east-west connectivity across the freeways. And I was wondering if maybe Jason, can you comment on, do we try to sync up priorities between all those things, or are they different processes? I'm not clear on how overall we make the most efficient use of funds and kind of sync up priorities between all those things.
Yeah, so Mr. Chairman, Bob, we generally for years now, people would come through for design assistance funds. They would apply for design assistance money. They would do a 15% design, they get a 15% design done, and then they would use that 15% design, that project, and come through for federal funds to build the project. So that's how design assistance is connected to the federal funds for bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. Generally, people come through for design assistance money and then come through for, if they're coming for federal funds, they come through the program for federal funds and build the project eventually. The active transportation plan, again, it's the same opportunity. People could apply. I believe Gilbert just last at FY21 applied for a design assistance grant on an ATP identified project and got funded. So, the design assistance is still there for, hopefully, people come forward with design assistance applications that are part of the active transportation plan. So that's how those two would be connected, just like they would be for the previous process.
Okay, but I guess let me drill down and be more specific. I thought there were about roughly 8 bike ped bridges over I-10 and I-17 in total that have been identified in the spine project. And I'm wondering how the locations of those and the other, part of the stuff that's part of the ATP, how does that relate to the spine project, and how do we sync up the east-west routes to match up with whatever is in the ATP? And do we, as a big picture view, are we able to look at all that together and prioritize those things so that we maximize the connectivity and the efficiency of spending money on those projects?
Yeah, we can talk about that. You and I can sit down and talk about that and go through some things and come up with something, and we can see what's available.
Because I just think as a regional planning group that we ought to be able to look at those. And I don't understand completely where all the spine project funding is coming from, but yes, I would like for you and me and maybe the group to have some kind of discussion at some point about syncing up the overall spending priorities so we don't build bridges to nowhere, and we understand how all that can mesh together to maximize connectivity. So
okay, yeah, connectivity and safety are two of the tenets of the active transportation plan, of course. So yeah, we can talk about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Jason. Any other questions from the committee members?
Can I?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Randy from Peoria.
Go ahead, Randy.
So I think my question is very similar to Christine's, which I just saw in the chat. I just went through the couple of exhibits in the active transportation plan for Tier 1 and Tier 2 corridors. It looks like everybody west of Phoenix does not have any of those Tier 1 or Tier 2 corridors identified or shown. Am I understanding correctly then that I've automatically lost 15% of my score for CMAQ and TA projects and 10 points from design assistance applications because I don't have any colors on that map?
That depends on who, what is applied for. So, I mean, there's no guarantee that Phoenix, Tempe, Mesa, Chandler, Scottsdale are going to apply for ATP corridor projects. So, you know, like I said, you're not excluded from applying for projects, but we want to prioritize ATP corridor projects. So we want member agencies to have an incentive to apply for projects that are more of a systems-based approach to active transportation in a regional sense, because we're you know, the regional organization, so we're trying to be a little bit more regional here. And so I don't think you automatically lose points, because I don't really know who, you know, who's going to apply for what. So that's, you can't really say that for sure.
So I guess my conclusion is, because my agency and a number of other agencies in the West Valley aren't shown as any of the tier 1 or tier 2 corridors on the maps, and in the table provided in that plan, there's no dollar amounts perceived because it's not on the map. I'm just trying to understand if the goal is now to take away a presentation score for CMAQ of 15% of the score, and instead put that in the active transportation, but I am not listed in the active transportation plan, does that mean that I've automatically lost 15% of my score?
Yeah, so if the ATP is prioritized, if somebody applies for an ATP project, they're gonna that identified score, they're gonna have that 15%. Everybody else that applies, that if they don't apply for an ATP project, I think that would cancel itself out. I don't think, you know, if there's, say, 30 projects get applied for and 5 are ATP related projects, those 5 would score the highest. And then if the other ones weren't, then they would, you know, score the same, or not the same, but depending on how they were scored. That 15% would go towards the ATP projects, but everybody else that applied that wasn't part of an ATP, that didn't apply for an ATP project, that part wouldn't be affected.
Okay, I think this came up similarly with the safety committee a few weeks ago, maybe a month ago. So then, again, just to stick with the example with CMAQ, for those projects, their score would be out of 100 because they're including a project if they do choose to include a project out of ATP. For, say, my example, would then my total score be out of 85 because it's not identified in ATP?
Yeah, so we're trying to prioritize the ATP. So we can take that back and look at that, but that's where we're trying to go.
So this is Christine. I get where you're going with this, Jason, and I fundamentally agree about prioritizing the ATP. But what Randy said is really true, and it kind of undermines the regional concept, because I know Randy's project very, very well because I live near it. And you could make the argument that he has a project that would create more regional connections if other cities pick up on it. I know in Avondale, they're working on something similar. Neither city is in the plan. And you could say that, you know, other cities that are in the plan may lose points for other things, but I think having gone through the application process a couple of times, and I know Randy's done the same, you know, they tend to get high scores, especially because they've been working through these projects much longer than we have. And I'm not saying anything negative in that regard. I admire and learn a lot from their applications, but we need to kind of take another look at this, because it does unintentionally seem to punish other cities that are trying to begin to create a network that could potentially connect to one that already exists. I just think it's worthy of maybe a little more discussion. I know we're over on time. So maybe we agendize this for next month. I'm a little concerned with the opportunity for all of us to compete equally. I guess that's where I'll leave it.
Hey, Jason, this is Jason Crampton. I just wanted to second that notion from Christine. Even though there is a portion of the ATP planned routes in Chandler, I'm still concerned because I think the CMAQ and design assistance applications really lend themselves already to higher density areas, such as Tempe, Phoenix, and things like that. And so to add this, I think would just further, I guess, divide that scoring and really put a lot of the funding right in that centralized area rather than giving other cities an opportunity to build out projects. I think on the transit side, I definitely agree you need that density to make it viable. But on the active transportation side, I think you can do a lot with active transportation, provide good networks for residents to get around and still enable people to commute via bicycle. And it doesn't necessarily have to be in that central core area to do so. So I think we're moving a little bit too far in that direction of putting all the priority into the centralized high density areas. And I think there should be a little more consideration given for some of the more outlying areas for active transportation.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, this is why we're having this conversation. We're not approving anything today.
Hey, Jason, and Chair, this is Marielle. I'm a representative for, we probably have the highest number of recommended route. And I can see both sides, but I think that if we are going to create a plan and say, as a region, we're committing to this network, it makes sense to then go ahead and prioritize and incentivize applying to get cities to apply for those projects and to fund those projects so that we can look at what's the next round of projects that will connect to this network that we've built out. And I can also say that, you know, the ATP is not, it doesn't sync up with the city of Phoenix's current bike master plan, and it doesn't necessarily sync up with everything that we're looking at internally right now. So having those extra points in there is definitely an effective way of getting the cities to reconsider where they want to plan their routes and where they are going to apply for funding, because it's not like every street in Phoenix is now a potential project. These are still they're still only in a portion of Phoenix anyway, or other cities. Oh, I also wanted to make a comment. Would give you points on having an extra, or whether or not you were on the route, but I was wondering, would you also be giving points if you were on the route and following the recommended infrastructure types? Because the infrastructure types, or the infrastructure recommendations, are a much higher standard than what we typically build, which is great, but I just wanted to make sure that you would be holding that level of infrastructure and that people wouldn't be getting points for like putting a Shero on the designated route.
Okay. I'm taking everybody's comments down here.
Can I make a comment too? Robert, you have a city, Tempe.
Ready, Robert.
I echo Phoenix question on trying to prioritize the ATC project, because some of them don't really match our plans. As an incentive to us, this is, it's going to probably get me killed. As an incentive to doing those, can we add, as part when we apply for the construction process, construction funding, can we add the design as part to incentivize for us to be incentivized to promote these projects? The second one is, can we lower the amount of points that we assign to the ATC projects? For example, maybe 5% or 10%. that still gives them a leg up, but not 15, which is really significant. Like I understand the West Side, and I understand Chandler's reticence on doing 15%. That actually puts you at a big disadvantage, and it doesn't really, when these projects are recommended, it conforms to your plans as a city, and sometimes they match the regional plans, but sometimes they do not.
Okay.
Thank you, Robert, for that comment. All right. Any other questions before we move on from the member?
May
Who's this? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
it. Robert again. Just to comment on those bridges, the maintenance of those bridges are given to the cities. So if I, for example, on the spine project, on the current I-10 improvement that we're doing right now, we're getting two pedestrian bridges in Tempe. But it's not the critical portion of those bridges is the maintenance cost. For example, we have two bridges on the US 60. The bike and ped bridges, it costs over it's like 1.7 million to do the maintenance on those things every 7 years. So it's expensive. Although we agree with the concept, it's expensive to do the maintenance on these things, and that's what discourages some of the cities to build these bridges.
Are you saying that your entire bridge maintenance or each bridge is that much to maintain? This is
The
Susan.
two bridges that we just refurbished this year, last year actually, is 1.7. There's two bridges on the US 60 for us.
Yeah.
One on College, and that's one on the Country Club. So those two bridges, we have to time them because it's too,
Right. Okay. I'll email you later with my questions. Thanks.
All right, some really good comments. Thanks for the feedback. This is good. We had this, that's why we're having this discussion. I'll take everybody's comments back. We'll discuss this all and we'll talk about it some more.
All right. Thank you, Jason, and thank you, members of the committee. Let's go. We keep moving forward. Let's go to item number 7. Member agency updates and requests for future agenda items. Do we have any from the members?
This is Susan. I have a couple updates.
Go ahead, Susan.
Scottsdale is installing 8 eco counters around the city. We're almost done with installing most of them, and then we'll have 2 mobile ones. So we want to start doing different areas of the city and analyzing the data and sharing it. We can share it with MAG and other cities. So let me know if you have questions. And then our Old Town Scottsdale Bicycle Master Plan just started the open house today online. So please let me know if you have questions about that. But we want to get a lot of public feedback. This is the first online open house for that project.
Hey, Susan, for those who don't know, includes me, what's an eco counter?
Oh, I'm sorry, a bicycle pedestrian counter, but it does, it's an automated counter. So it counts type of user and direction of travel. That's just the name of that company.
Okay.
So thank you.
Anybody else? All right, guys. Well, I don't have anybody. I do see that I'm reading all these comments here. So I understand, Ryan, was that this is your last meeting with MAG back in active transportation? Is that correct?
Depending on the team that I'll be taking on at Maricopa County Department of Public Health, we'll have to assess who's covering what. But Molly just did a great job today, so kudos to her. And so we'll reconvene. But whether or not I have official representation on this board, I'll definitely be having my hands. I'll stay active with you guys, no matter what.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for your contribution. And I was wondering what department you were going to go in.
The Department of Public Health.
Well, thank you. And good luck in your new ventures. And hopefully we get somebody from Maricopa just as involved as you are.
All right, thank you.
All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks a lot for, okay, well, I guess we're moving to item number 8, the enjoyment of the meeting. So our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, January 19th at 1 o'clock. And I think that's all we have for today. Thank you again for calling in. You guys be safe. Have a happy holiday, and we'll see you guys all in 2021. So do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move. I have one comment additional though. Where's the lunch, Jason?
Your house, Robert. Get ready.
All right, I'm waiting.
All right, thank you, Robert. All right, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
This is Garrett. I'll make a motion.
All right, so I think I heard Ryan first, and then I heard, was it Randy? Were you second?
Nope.
Okay, what is
It was me, Garrett.
Garrett, okay, thank you, Garrett. All right, so we have a motion from Ryan and a second from Garrett. All those in favor say aye, and then we'll see you all next year.
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, you guys. Have a good year. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You too. Thank you.